So square body truck, it's about a 78, and nothing in the dash works, so pull out the dash and test everything. And the main reason I'm in there is because the fuel gauge doesn't work, and this one's got the switch for left and right. It's got dual tanks, and the solenoid doesn't work. So I get a new solenoid, and according to the new solenoid, they want me to rewire the gauge through the solenoid down by the tanks. And they really want me to just put this toggle switch on there and have everything operated from the back. This is the wiring connection right here. But I was able to find a replacement switch for the dash, so, well, I'm kind of at a dead end here. Before I do anything, the fuel gauge has to work. And this is the printed board on the back of the dash. And the fuel gauge is this one right here. And it goes through all this stuff over here to the fuel gauge connections. It's got a ground, it's got a power. And this is the signal from the tanks. Everything on these vehicles is a powered system. And the amount of ground that you put on that power system activates the system. That's the way everything's worked. So I finally find a wiring diagram for this truck. I was lucky to find it for a 78, and I only found a diagram for the single primary tank. It doesn't have a second tank, but still it gives me routing. And it goes through the system and up to the gauge, and here's the connections for the gauge. And if you really look, you can see this is printed off a computer, but the master in the computer, look at that, somebody else was tracking the same thing I was tracking. This is all scribbled on the master on the computer, and they were going the same place I was. Well, it ended up, I couldn't get connection from the gauge to the switch, which is all the way through here. And of course the switch isn't included because this was only a single tank printout. And I tested from a tank, and the tank was good. The level float worked on both tanks, and it read the right the right resistance. But then you get over to here and see these little diagrams here, and see this string of connections here. Well, somewhere in the dash, these are plug-ins where one harness plugs into the next harness. And right there on number 13, which is number 13 right there, is a bad connection. So I just direct wired from this point to this point with my own wire, instead of trying to find where the hell that thing was, because I couldn't see where there was any connections, and it was buried underneath the heating system. But it's all good for now, because now it works.